Hola everyone, this is Mora coming to you from the Central Mountains in Mexico. And in this video, I want to tell you how I lost 25 pounds last year without even trying when I moved to Mexico. One quick disclaimer, this is not medical advice or nursing advice or even a suggestion. This is simply what I've done in the last year and what's worked for me. If you want to make a big change in your diet or exercise, it'd be wise to talk to a professional. It's been just over a year now since my dogs and I loaded up the car and headed across the border. And for the first 6 months, we were traveling and exploring and moving every 1 to 4 weeks, so I had a lot going on. But what really caught my attention after a few months was that the weight was dropping right off. So this is what happened. Of course, many things in my life have changed since living in Mexico for the last year. So I knew I was losing weight as my pants and everything got looser. But it wasn't until I went to the doctor in Villa del Carbon that I found out it was 25 pounds. I went to get a simple prescription, and while I was there, they did vital signs, of course, including my weight, and that's when I found out I had dropped 25 pounds. I was surprised. I didn't think it would be that much, but I was happy about it because before I left Oregon, I was carrying some extra weight. In order to understand how it happened, you have to know a little bit of my background. I had been living in Oregon for about 2 years and doing a job I really hated. And I was kind of digging myself into a hole in life that got deeper and darker, and I didn't know which way to turn. I wouldn't allow myself to make any big changes with my job because, we all need a job. So I kept on with it, and I was near the end of my rope. So when an unexpected layoff occurred in January of 24, I kind of took it as a sign. And the change in my thinking and in my body, when I thought of getting another job in a hospital and the dread I felt, between that and the excitement and happiness I felt with the thought of moving to Mexico, it became a clear choice. And I'm so glad I made that choice to live in Mexico. So in Oregon, I had gained an extra 20 pounds at least. It was just comforting myself with food, especially in the evenings, and it just creeps up there. The older you get, the more easy it is to gain weight, and I think the United States is the easiest place to do that, but I'll get to that in a moment. I had become physically and mentally exhausted with my job, and I would try not to eat during the day because I felt like it zapped my energy, and I needed all the energy I could get just to survive a shift. But I was really kidding myself because I was drinking sugary coffee all day long to keep going. I would frequently bring in sugary sweets like cake and cookies to share with everybody else. So it wasn't like I wasn't eating during the day. I was eating a lot of junky food. Then I would go home after work and eat a simple dinner and hopefully have dessert because that's really my downfall. I love sweets, cake, cheesecake, whatever. So yes, my weight was creeping up. I'm gonna show you some videos of that time so you can see if I look different. During that time, I was very unhappy and pretty depressed, so I wasn't going out hardly ever, so I'd eat at home most of the time. Not only did that save me money and prepare me to get ready to go to Mexico, whether I knew it or not, but it also allowed me to stay home alone, which for me was a good thing at that point, and it got me ready for this solo journey that I was about to take. It seems like several things I was doing in those 2 years prior to moving to Mexico were kind of getting me ready for my journey here. I didn't know it at the time, but things I was doing then, it made my life better here now. I wasn't happy that I had gained weight, of course, but once I made the decision to move to Mexico, it was the last thing on my mind. I had so much to do to prepare to get ready for the trip and for living in Mexico that, I wasn't about to worry about my weight at that point. So I was lucky enough in our first 6 months in Mexico to be able to drive around and explore. There were plenty of locations in Mexico I wanted to see before we actually settled to start a new life. So it was really fun for me and exciting to be free of work and get to go explore Mexico. I didn't speak much Spanish at all when I came here, and that made me pretty shy. I was embarrassed at my lack of linguistic skills, and I was working on it, but it was slow going, and I just felt embarrassed. I would go to places like supermarkets so that I wouldn't have to deal with individual marketers at the mercado, so I wouldn't waste their time trying to fumble with my Spanish. Really, it was a cop-out. I went to supermarkets because it was easier. More expensive, but you just go through and get your stuff and you don't have to talk to anybody. Anyway, I had become used to just being by myself in Oregon, and it just felt natural. We, my dogs and I, moved every 1 to 4 weeks, zigzagging across Mexico, seeing all the places I'd always wanted to see and having a good time doing it. I continued to not eat during the daytime and I'd just have a meal around 4 or 5 p.m. And because my environment had changed so much, the things that usually got me, like food things that tempted me, like hamburgers and cheesecake, were not readily available. So I wasn't even thinking about it to eat or not to eat. I was just so involved with my exploration of Mexico and moving all the time. It took a lot of thought and energy to book a new place every time we moved and get used to a new town every time we moved. So food wasn't really on my mind at all. I had fallen into intermittent fasting without even intending to. It started because I was trying to conserve my energy for work, and it just became a habit. So now eating at 4 or 5 p.m. is my one meal of the day. And if I was lucky, I'd find something good for dessert. But like I said, the markets were simple, I had simple food, and I didn't go out of my way to find cheesecake. It was a new life, a new culture, and I was having fun exploring. I was on my own and just got accustomed to eating simple meals at home by myself. You know how when you're part of a couple or you're with friends, it just seems a lot more natural to go to restaurants? And I did plenty of that on my own. But I also was really enjoying just staying to myself and cooking for myself. The food in Mexico is great. And when I say great, I mean it's whole foods. It's not stuffed with artificial everything and chemicals. So naturally, the weight came off. I was truly happy the first time in a long time when I was exploring Mexico, and eating or dieting or anything like that wasn't on my mind at all. I told my friends I lost weight through the happiness diet because it's true. Being happy, you don't need your crutches as much, and food was my crutch. So just being happy, my mind busy with other things like moving around and discovering Mexico, I didn't lean on the usual things because they weren't around me anyway. That's not to say that I don't enjoy some regional specialties here and there. Mexico has got some of the best food in the world. But you know, that compulsive overeating, it just left me. So I think it was a combination of lower caloric intake, of course, plus all the walking I was doing with the dogs and just exploring. For example, here in Pátzcuaro, I will take my car into town because I live a ways out, and then I'll park my car and just walk all over town from there. It's not a huge town. It feels really good to absorb the street life and the ambiance and the people on the street, and besides, parking can be a pain. So I just leave my car and do an afternoon full of walking. It's not strenuous. There are a few hills, but it's fun. So lower caloric intake, of course, a little bit more exercise, of course. And the third thing that I think really made a difference and why it was so easy to drop the weight here was Mexican food. Real food, whole foods. There's not a lot of processed food in my diet anymore, and that makes a world of difference. Here at the market, you can be guaranteed that the tomatoes you're looking at are not only beautiful, but they are directly from the farm, which means it's not likely that they have a lot of additives and chemicals. Now, I don't know that the decrease in these chemicals and additives in my diet here has made the weight come off, but I have a strong suspicion. It's sad what we've allowed to take place with our food supply in the US. There are so many added chemicals, preservatives, flavor enhancers, texture improvers, and appearance modifiers, with names you can't pronounce like butylated hydroxyzanazole and disodium inosinate, not to mention high fructose corn syrup, artificial colors, and texture agents like carrageenan and cellulose. Here are just a few of these additives. Of course, if you have money and time, you can search out foods without these additives, but it seems like it's getting harder and harder, and that's just not so much of an issue here. If you just walk down the block, you'll find ladies making fresh tortillas, or if you go into the carniceria, they'll grind or cut your meat right there for you in front of your eyes. That does away with a lot of the pink slime of the world unless you're searching out a Walmart to go buy your meat there. It's true that the Mexican population has its own struggles with obesity and being overweight. The prevalence of dietary shifts towards ultra-processed foods and sugar-sweetened beverages is here too, along with fast food and economic factors making calorie-dense processed foods more affordable. It's out there, you can find these things in Mexico too. But what I'm saying is that when your environment changes, you can change too. And for me, that was enough that I lost a lot of weight and changed my eating habits. When I went to California last November to visit my family, I had several really great meals thanks to my son Ryan. But on the way home to Mexico, I had a little wait in the Oakland airport and I was hungry. So I saw some onion rings and I got those to eat, and they were like the best thing I ever ate. I was convinced that I would not stop eating these onion rings unless, they were not in front of me. I was convinced that if they were around me all the time, I would weigh 300 pounds. They were so good. And I'm convinced that some of these additives they put into foods are addictive. I don't have any proof of that, but it certainly seems like it. I mean, it was ridiculous. And wouldn't that be beneficial for some of the big food conglomerates? I think there's a lot to be said about Mexicans' approach to food and eating together with other people. Like in many other countries, maybe most countries, Mexicans use mealtime to come together, and I think that's kind of a lost art in the United States. It's such a pleasure to break bread with people you like and want to spend time with. In other parts of the world, it's more fast-paced, especially in urban and economically driven societies. Time is seen as a commodity. Time is money, as they say in the US, and just going through the drive-thru solves the problem of hunger, but this is really missing out. Not only is it a great way to commune with people and have a good time, it's also a way to really enjoy food and drink, really savor it, and therefore be more satisfied when you're done. You can even see this in city design and architecture. Mexican cities often have public squares, plazas, cafes, designed for lingering and people watching. Compare that to cities built around cars and drive-thrus. It's really different. Okay, enough of my food spiel. For me, it came down to 3 things. Intermittent fasting almost every day. Of course, I go out to lunch or whatever when I want to with friends, or I go out to have drinks, whatever. But in general, I do a meal once a day and dessert. And that combined with a little bit more exercise and a real change in my nutrients has made a big, huge difference. Those 3 things have allowed me to keep 25 pounds off for the last 6 months anyway. We'll see how it goes. I did discover the cheesecake at Costco, so that's not easy. But in general, it just seems a lot easier to maintain a decent weight in Mexico for me. I've had other positive health outcomes from living in Mexico too. Like I haven't even used this inhaler, not even once since I got here. Now that could be due to a lack of allergies or maybe even because of losing weight or decreased inflammation, but I think it's great. My skin seems to be clearer, less puffy in general. My energy level is consistent, and importantly to me, my hair has stopped falling out the way it used to when I was flushed with cortisol every day. I haven't had any blood work done, but I'm also hoping that I have stronger bones and a healthier heart. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, I want to say I really appreciate you. I so appreciate my regular viewers. I love all the comments you leave, and I really appreciate the support and sort of camaraderie that I feel with you. And so I hope you have enjoyed this video. Right now in 𝐤𝐸𝐿𝐭 is springtime, which really means it feels like summer. This is the hottest I've ever been here near Pátzcuaro. In the daytime, it gets up to the mid-80s, and at night it's still nice and cool. The sky is often a little hazy, and it's very dry, no rain for the last few months. But it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm looking forward to June when the rain starts and everything cools off just a little bit. Just a little postscript for my friends out there. I had an accident earlier this week. 𝐕𝐤𝐬𝐭 dragged me off my feet out in the street, and I'm okay. But it's been a painful week with an arm injury and a hip problem. I'm thinking it's not serious, but if you heard earlier in this video, my voice was a little different than usual. It's because my voice changes when I'm very tired or in pain. I know it's weird. I know you all wish me the best. Thank you for your kindness, and I'll see you next time.